I'm a big believer in creativity, efficiency, which ultimately optimizes your productivity. You know, that it's I want things to look professional. I want things buttoned up. I want things to sound professional. I really work hard to make certain that my recordings sound a certain way. They have to. Like in my field, you're not really going into studios anymore. Like they don't want to open them. They don't want a bunch of goofs wandering in, wandering out, you know what I mean, and getting all their equipment dirty and coughing all over their microphones.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts. Welcome to Tech Time with Sweet Tea, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of technology and how it can either serve you or, well, not serve you. Here is your host, Sweet Tea, and he's on a mission to help you harness the power of tech in your life. Join him as he chats with people about their tech journeys. From the latest gadgets to digital dilemmas, we'll explore it all. So grab your favorite device, hit that play button, and let's keep it real in the world of tech. Tech Time with Sweet Tea is here to help you stay plugged in and empowered. Let's get started.
What was the question you had?
How do you like all your new tech stuff?
All new tech stuff. The most recent things I got actually, since this is tech, and I just started the recording, and I'm quite surprised. I've had my one TV Samsung I got in like 2012, and it's still kicking, it's still going, and I just got my third now, if you want to call it a TV, but monitor. Pull this closer here to the mic. I got my third Samsung mic. I'm looking at the second one I bought, and then this third one is off to my side here. You saw in other pictures, as well. And I'm quite impressed. It was I thought I was going to go another way when it wasn't Samsung, and it ended up being exactly what I had pictured. So it was great.
Oh, I love it. By the way, I love the fact that you humor old guys like me and refer to them as TVs.
TVs, monitors.
I don't know that anybody calls them TVs anymore, but thank you for humoring me. So I knew
it is my TV.
Good. Well, there's nothing old guy about that. That it's the opposite. That from the field I came in, that in essence connected TV, or the old school set box loses viewers day after day after day after day after day, and so you're like a lot of people now, man. It's like you watch wherever the heck
things are changing, and things are changing. And with that in mind, like what one thing that have a recent change that have you really taken on a change? And I didn't want to mention old, but like being in your more significant years. What is a challenge in technology that you have just taken on with absolute grace?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So when I started my company, Duffin Media, and that was in 2019. So the first part of the answer is 4 years old, right? And so I came from corporate television sales, sales management. That was my background. And it was a very privileged field. And I was grateful. I mean, of course, there were days I took it for granted and acted privileged, but I knew it was great. It was a fantastic career. I got to do a ton of things and fly all around the country and all blah, blah, blah. But you know what the number one great thing was? I didn't mess with tech at all. I really didn't. And I didn't realize what a privilege that was, that it would be like you'd snap your fingers and the IT department would all come scurrying in and set up your computer with the presentation and all that sort of thing. So, and whether it was your phone or 150 years ago, the BlackBerry or whatever, you would literally just hand it off to somebody and be like, okay, it's not working. I don't know what's the matter. Well, I don't know. And you would just hand it off. And then you would either get a brand new box that was all magically assembled, or they would come back and hand you everything fixed. So what I remember was I launched the company, and there's two things of a lot of things I didn't have, which was number one, tech ability of any kind. Didn't get it. And then the other part was patience. So it was just this unwillingness. So I can remember launching the company, and this is one of a boatload of mics that are all around my house. And here's one, there's another. And I had people setting them up. And because I just figured I'll handle like the part that I'm good at. So COVID comes, stuff starts to break, and all those magical people are unavailable. And I can remember my mic tapping out, and somebody was trying to talk to me on it, like I said, on a virtual call or whatever. And they were like, okay, well, you'll need to check the interface, check this cable, and I'm like, and dying. And I remember thinking a bunch of times, like, nah, I'm not cut out for this. And so, but you get cut out for it. So it's like me changing all the whack cables and all that stuff like that, and understanding what it was, going to the store in Philly in the snow during COVID, where I had to wait outside in the cold, where they brought you the cables and they wouldn't let you in. And I can remember all of that. And this is only a few years ago. I guess it was like when the problems started to go for me, it was like 2021. And but you learn, because nobody has time, for prima donnas. Like, okay, John, you're going to need to edit your voiceover recordings. You're going to need to edit the auditions. I was like clueless, but you learn because you have to. I'm just grateful that I mustered up the patience, the temperament or whatever, so that I get to do that now all the time,
So greatness, yeah, learning, and that's very inspiring. I love how to start. I had a whole nother idea planned of how to start up, but that I couldn't have planned that start to this episode just any better than that. That's great story. Great there about a COVID experience where you just stepped up and learned, like so many people in the industry, and and I agree. Like I've been. Since 2010, I felt the same thing. I get paid to watch sports and working for a digital media company and everything. So I definitely feel you there.
A gift. It's an absolute privilege and gift, but sometimes you don't quite realize what the real gift is. Like you're thinking that, the privilege of sports, or like with you, I get to watch my favorite sports and it's my job and this is great. Or for me, being with a bunch of shishi clients in foo-foo restaurants and, and all that stuff. But it's the sense that people are helping you is really what it was. And then you launch a career that really is just you. And so that's the part where the tech part was mind-numbing to me. Am I a pro at it? No, absolutely not. I'm light years better, though, than I used to be. And just even like the ease of having these conversations now, that's a privilege and a gift. And as I said, my patience has grown as much as my skill set has.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want that kind of energy to come into your life and to the magic that you just heard from that story, boy, do I have a shameless plug for you. John and I are both very familiar with this great community. And I just have to say, just like an hour ago, maybe an hour before we started recording this episode, that greatness is dropping. Shameless plug, Greatness Community School of Greatness podcast, which I started listening to in 2016. Go get this playlist. It's on Pandora right now. And it's not 100% the magic. The 100% magic you experience in person at this event. You listen to the podcast, School of Greatness, and you can share that same about what John mentioned, people helping people and like-minded people supporting each other, like doing the exact thing. And none of this worrying about disagreeing with people. Like we're all in it together. We're doing we're doing our separate things, but we're all doing it together. So that shameless plug. I try and just shout that out as much as I can. But I want to get back into some few opening questions at least.
Sure.
We're at least 10, 12 minutes in already, but we start off with inspirational.
I'll try to shorten my answer. Sorry.
No, like it's great, but I have it down, and I wrote these down. I jotted these down. It's the last thing I jotted down.
Mm-hmm.
But the quote, "What does it mean to you?" And this is someone I heard from back Lewis House. I introduced me to this guy as well. Think Media Team, Sean Cannell, and I heard this quote. He said, "Content is king, marketing is queen, and she runs the household." Your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, it's brilliant and perfect. So when you launch a company and when you try to sustain and not try, and when you grow a company and you take the steps to make certain that you're growing the company, one of the gifts, like the things that make it so much more of a faster trajectory are social media. Why? Because of the content. And so it's the ability to be able to place content in a platform or on a platform where people are going to see it in real time. And by real time, I mean within 24 hours, and so the ability to be able to utilize the content, to be able to constantly, you could put up, look, right now you've got Gary Vee saying 8 pieces of content a day is enough, not too much, not overkill, like 8 pieces on 6 different platforms. That would be like an actual goal, right? So if you're looking at 48 pieces of content all across the board, the good news is for me that it is king. The best part is you don't have to be flawless with the content, because if you do it right, so much of it's going up. And if it's not your best piece, or you feel like you missed the mark or whatever, put another piece of content on. The beautiful thing is you don't have to correct errors. The strategy becomes keep going. Literally keep going, keep piling more things on. But what you talked about in terms of marketing being the queen and the queen runs the household, randomly throwing content, it took me at least a couple of years. Oh, probably 3, to get a clearer understanding as to what the content was supposed to be. One of the most frustrating things, which are tied to the marketing, one of the most frustrating things I remember hearing, I am like throwing stuff on videos and memes and quotes and blogs and blah, 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 blah. And I still remember somebody saying, who I am a fan of, coming to me and saying, oh my God, your stuff is great. Love your energy. What is it that you do exactly? And I almost died. Because I'm like, oh my God, you don't know from the 12,000 pieces of content what I do. So that's the marketing part. That none of it matters if your brand ain't tight, that if you're not, like I said again, putting the pieces up strategically. And I tie marketing to branding. And that to me is why it becomes so important that before you put a piece of content up, don't overthink it. But you should be, I'll speak for me. I needed to be much clearer in regards to what directions I was heading. I've morphed from a voiceover company to a coaching platform, to a public speaking platform, to a podcast hosting platform and guesting. And thank you for letting me do this. For God's sake, this is a privilege. And voiceover as well, where I was specifically and only voiceover related when I launched this 4 years ago. And the branding becomes all the more critical because people have to understand, other than he's funny or he's got good energy or he's whatever, and that's why, to me, I have to be cognizant of that all the time.
It's important as I'm now. It's weird for me to say, and as we're talking on your show as well. Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me on your show too.
Showing up for me, man.
And as 10 years ago, I wouldn't be looking for speaking and looking to be a speaker. But now, as I'm maybe kind of looking to scare my 10-year-old self and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, get on the stage." No, you need that clear message. You need that message that you want to leave people with, and
Right.
it's important to get that clarity on that
Mhm.
message. So a few things, just interest points of interest. What got you into, and did this FYI on a little backstory of this podcast? It started out as a filmmaking,
Mhm.
directing, talking to those people. I had a great first guest, commercial film director Jordan Brady. Go check that out. That was
Mhm.
great. But I still use this today. The one quote that he has is to on the stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before us. That was Jordan Brady, my first guest on the In the Film World podcast, which this podcast has morphed. But what, and I like that we're talking about voice work on here too, and this is all production. And what got you interested in voice work?
Mhm. Yeah. So I was, like I told you, in broadcast advertising, television, media sales for a lot of years. And so I would have first started with like family and friends and talking about how they like my voice, and I would push back. And it's one of these things where I people would say that. But what really occurred, and this is going to sound weird, but I'll risk it, which is it would be a minimum of a couple of times a week, every week, over the series of year after year after year after year, regardless of where I happen to be. In a coffee shop, in a restaurant, in a retail store, talking to other friends, somebody would come up to me, say, "Are you in radio? You should be in radio. Do you do voice work?" And I would always push back. No, 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 that's not my thing. No, no, no. No, I'm the salesperson. No, no. And I don't know why the pushback, but I did. I always push back. I never liked the sound of my voice. When I would hear it, I would just get like repulsed. But it kept happening. And this is day after week after week, year after year, different locations, anywhere, people would just keep coming up to me. So this is going on for decades, right? Now I'm starting to tap out in terms of the career that I was in. I'm frustrated. They're frustrated. I don't like this. One of, I think, the biggest signs that it is time to make a change is when you stop appreciating great things. And that was happening to me. I don't consider myself like bitter or jaded. It's none of those things. But I can remember, like, you'd close a huge account and be like, yeah, yeah, but this other one isn't going to come back. I was getting very little joy out of those sorts of things. I loved to travel. Travel energized me. Getting on a plane, getting off the plane, I would go firing, you know what I mean? And then I remember, next week I got to go to blah, blah, blah. And if you would tell someone else that wasn't, we'll say, living the life, you come off like such an entitled, like, bum. Like, I got to go to Miami next week. And then after that, I got to go to Los Angeles. And then, you got to, I didn't, but you got to listen to that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, something's clearly wrong here. So the job wound down at the beginning of 2019. And it was winding down. And I remember thinking, well, what if all those people were right? So job ends. I immediately run out, buy all the equipment, and had one person assembling it in my home. I had another person that was on the line, like on like a Zoom call, an engineer. So I have zero voiceover experience and zero voiceover revenue. But I've got engineers and equipment lugging in all sorts of stuff. And so it all gets set up. And even weirder, I get a job like almost within a week. Great. It was awesome. Fun story. Did the job. I was able to do pickup lines in out of town. Beautiful. Perfect. Went great. Client thrilled. Blah, blah, blah. Do you know when I got the second job?
When
6 months after the first one. So I got really humbled really fast. That then all of a sudden you're like, okay. So you're sitting here with all your fancy pants equipment, and well, you could go for a moderate, but I want that. And then you're like, all right, so now what? And then it gets weird. And I aligned with a colleague, coach, friend, mentor. His name is Corey Disson. He's a voiceover marketing coach, and he came from a production studio, and I've known him from that world for years. And he started to help me in regards to the way to build the business side rather than just sit and wait for someone to select you, which nobody does. Just nobody. So it became a very lonely sense. So as I said, so it's like, okay, how can I now build that business, build that platform, and build that brand? And that's where I took the risk, took the leap of faith. The job naturally ended, which was perfect. And then I went all in. And that's how it rolled.
All in, let it flow, and
all that. And I mean, plenty of frightening moments, including in the present tense. I mean, plenty of them. But the one thing I can tell you is that I said I was all in. It was really important to me that I was identified as a voice actor. I was identified. I can remember I rarely talked about my former career. I do now. I mean, it's just weird to like cut off 26 years of your life make no sense. But I wanted to be known as a voice actor. So I only talked about voiceover stuff and all that sort of thing. And it's like, and that's what got me in. And it's what keeps me in, even though as the business model has morphed.
I see that in a little bit with myself currently. I doing that, and it's I had interest in acting back in high school and college, and I took some acting classes, and I actually started to pursue that, and then something like clicked, and I would say, okay, maybe not so much acting, but definitely something in the media. So I looked and looked and looked, discovered, and I wasn't really till after college I figured that out. And even then I didn't know, like, uncertainty. There was certain uncertainty all around this progress and path. And and I'd go to school and mass communication. That's when I really started, and I'm starting to see that self that I was back in college. Sweet Tea. I got the nickname by someone, Sweet Tea,
right?
And that's coming alive again. And this podcasting thing I'm really getting back into, and my podcast, Keeping a Real Podcast, and then a Toastmasters podcast will do, which I'm blurring my words together, but
keep going.
D50 After Dark podcast. We're in our 5th episode there. Huge milestone episode for that coming up on Table Topics. If you're ever familiar with Toastmasters, Table Topics, and podcasting seems to be my thing. Like voice work was yours, and everyone would keep coming to you. And video editing, podcasting, that's me. And I'm really like, I'm starting to think like every time I walk into that building, I would be like, okay, I'm trying not to like. My head gets so big that I'm trying not to let the ego get the best of me, and I'm getting to that point again because of all that. But
I love that. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? I know it's your show, but my only thought with the question was this, which is, what's the part you said as you're morphing more of the podcast thing and all that? What's the part that energizes you about it, that jacks you up?
Everything about it, people in these groups, I see these, what do you hate about podcasting? It's like I sit back and I think about that question. Is like, what do I hate about podcasting? And I can't think of a single thing.
I love that.
Editing, talking to people. I've been asking questions, talking to people, answering questions. Like some rare when I'm hosting my own. I had a you're not the only one who actually asked me a question, but answering questions, going on other podcasts, all of it. I can't think of a single thing I hate about podcasting.
See, and that tells you a lot. Like, I knew when I made the move, and I could have tried to find another job to hang on to. Shoot, I'm forgetting the choice of words that you used with me at the beginning when you referred to my age. It wasn't advancing age. It was much
significant.
Significant, right? So I could have leaned into one more, almost like the punch drunk fighter. And you know what I mean? I know I can go another year or two, but I went all in, and it's like, and here's how I knew it was the right thing. I knew it was the right thing, like what you said. So that first job I was doing, I remember I did it here. And my big fancy pants recording studio is directly behind that gray wall. And I remember it was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. I thought that was great. I'm not the work till 10 or 11 o'clock type. And I mean, toward the end, in terms of the broadcast sales career, but like, oh my God, who's sending me this email at 8 o'clock? Like, jeez, right? I thought that was awesome. And now I can, do the dub and the edit and all that stuff. I told you I have no tech ability, but I'm going to like just do it. It never felt like work. None of it. None of it. None of the mind numbing stuff. Like, I don't know how to edit. Oh my God, I just erased this. Oh, now I got to go find it. Like, none of it felt like work. And with that same job, that first time, I am in Hawaii visiting my sister. And I remember the client called me. And so she's like, oh, we need to do a pickup. We just need to change 3 words and whatever, right? Whatever the words don't matter. But it was like, we need to change these 3 words. Well, I'm panic stricken because I don't have any of my stuff, right? And I had remembered talking to a new voiceover colleague. And she was telling me about recording in closets, and she was calling them pillow forts, and having like blankets over her head and all that sort of thing. And I remembered the story, and I'm in a hotel room in Hawaii, have to turn the air off for the noise. And so I've got no air in the room, and I'm in the closet, and I'm on the floor, kneeling on the floor. And I've got like a big comforter or whatever over the top of my head, and you can't move because they'll hear it rustling. So I'm like, I thought it was great. I wasn't like, oh, this is the worst ever. And they're like, oh, yeah, great, but done. And it worked. And so all the things that I thought were awful, or all the things that I thought would be awful, weren't. And it doesn't mean that to sound Pollyanna. It simply means I think that's when you know you're onto something. And like for you, when you're saying people are putting up posts, what do you hate? I almost start laughing when you started to say that. What do you hate about podcasts? It's like, okay, well, you shouldn't be doing one. There's a gift, there's a joy to it. And it doesn't mean you have to force it. But honest to God, that's when I knew. That's when I knew.
Great. Where I can go. It's great. Conversation is just zooming by. And that's when it was fun. Like a few podcasts I had like this when it's been just a natural conversation and just let the conversation flow. Mm-hmm. And this took on life right as soon as I came in and opened up the Zoom. We got rolling.
Thank you.
Do I want to touch on any of these that I jotted down? So let's get into some technology aspects.
Yes.
And the first one that how do you think, and I mentioned these, it came to mind after I asked these questions. Just these are your own experience. If you feel you don't know what your experience is, it's always sure. Dig down deep from you, from your experience. How has technology changed the way we communicate with each other? What impact has it had on our relationships?
Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple. So first off, we're doing it, which is literally this. So 10 years ago, 5 years, I mean, Zoom was, I remember things like GoToWebinar or a couple of other big clunky vehicles that it was almost like dial up with AOL, and it's like skipping and stopping and freezing and all that sort of thing. And we would use those at a corporate level. And it was such a mind numbing, colossal like tech breakdown. I didn't know how to fix it, and you would just wind up laughing. And it was such a pain in the rear end to have to be like freezing up and all that stuff. And you're like, so to think us speaking right now effortlessly, easily. So the ability for me to host a podcast came from Zoom, StreamYard, Riverside. I mean, it's the ease and simplicity of that. Any coaching platform. Look, COVID changed a ton of things, but it also, I mean, we're not in COVID mindset at this point, and we're still using platforms. I don't know you if it isn't for greatness and a weekly Zoom platform that we've been on over a series of weeks. I don't know who you are other than saying hi to you randomly at a conference with 1,000 some odd people. And so where the technology has, it makes it's more than lifelike. It's real. I can have a legit relationship with Tommy Kenyon because of technology. I love the fact that when I saw you in Columbus, Ohio, I didn't have to go through, who is that? I wonder what he's about. I don't have his resume. I don't know what he likes. That it was an immediate lock in terms of eyes, and we're in. And it helps to build relationships. It doesn't replace in person. It's not meant to replace in person. But honest to God, it just makes things so much easier. I can have a legit, real conversation with you. I can have a business conversation. I can have a social conversation. I can coach groups of people. I can coach individuals. They can coach me. And I feel deeply connected to the conversation. And this just wasn't so 5-6 years ago. And as I said, whatever the variations were. So the improvements in the ease of virtual conferencing, the click a button, done, and everything runs smoothly, easily. To me, I don't know how you go back from it at this point. I don't know why you would, So to me, the number one is visual sound quality, no breaking, no breakage, able to literally feel as if I'm looking you in the eye when I'm speaking to you. And as I said, it's not like fuzzy or grainy or weird or anything like that. So that to me would be number one, first and foremost. That's what has changed my ability to be able to be seen, be heard, to see and hear other people, and to be able to build a business model.
And I like that you brought up GoToWebinar. You know what I'm saying? Not to go back to the Lewis Howes thing, but when I was first starting listening, I listened to the podcast, and then he was here putting out his messaging on. It was School of Greatness Academy that I actually joined in 10.0 and got to experience Lewis Howes himself in a group of setting of like 200 people in this group. And it was one of his last groups that he did like office hour coaching with himself, like and he brought people in the hot seat. But anyway,
I know that. I remember that, and I was a part of that.
You were School of Greatness Academy?
Absolutely. He answered one of my questions, as a matter of fact, and he brought me on the hot seat. The rough part was I wasn't the one time. I did about 10 in a row live, and I wasn't on the one, and that was the day he picked my question. So he wasn't talking to me directly. I absolutely know what you're talking about.
One of my first experiences in like a webinar setting with him is on GoToWebinar. He was using GoToWebinar.
Sure.
And that was the point. I haven't really used it so much, but except for that.
Have you used it lately?
Not really. And now it's like Zoom or I do OBS a lot.
I haven't used that. I'm just saying that it's the you talk about things like advancements of things and virtual conferencing and AI and whatever. It's to me the most powerful part of the tech now is not necessarily what it does, although that's ridiculous how strong,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the speed of the advancements.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple platforms I use for virtual conferencing. They're all great. And I almost can't pick a favorite. And it's like, well, whatever one you like, because they're all great. They're all easy. They're all at the touch of a button. And all of them are reasonably priced. We all had access to tech 10, 20, 30 years ago. We all had access to it, and it was a fortune. Or it was what, like, Lewis Howes is accessing because he could. And it was like, but most people didn't have direct, complete access to that. And now we do. And I don't make light of the financial commitment. I don't make light of that at all. But it's the fact is, I said, you could do these for reasonable price points and look like a pro. Sound like one too.
OBS is free too.
Yeah, see?
I can't beat free.
I love it, man. I'll definitely check it out. I would want to learn more about it.
So moving on here, do you think technology is making us more connected or more isolated? One can argue either
Of
or.
course, and I will. I don't know that I'd be right on either side of the argument, but honest to God, I'll put it this way. On a bad day for me, bad day, when I feel like isolating and I want to beat myself up and I don't feel like I'm progressing and all that stuff, technology absolutely isolates me, because I can pretend that I'm connected by throwing some slap happy likes on Facebook to people, or you know what I mean? Yeah, attaboy. Oh, that was great. Oh, awesome. And you're nowhere. And you're nowhere. If you're me, and I'll just speak for me, right? And it's like you're there on the couch, feeling sorry for yourself, and it's like I haven't booked any business, and I don't feel like I'm going anywhere, and that has happened. That's reality. That's the life of an entrepreneur. I don't know if it's everyone's life as an entrepreneur, but there's definitely, like I said, those kinds of days for me. And so I can hide behind social media. I can hide behind posting content that I recorded a month ago, you know what I mean? And smack that up on the wall. And it's like, and then meanwhile, I can sit and not talk to somebody, or get to a point where it's like picking up the phone calls a drag, picking up the telephones a drag. And I came from a field, and one of the things I prided myself in, and I certainly wasn't alone, I worked with a ton of great, great, great people, including two of my sisters that were in the field before me, and they were both the gold standard. They've since left the field, and that's the reason I say were, but it was like they were the gold standard. My whole thought was, if I was half as good as they were, I could be a major rock star, because they were spectacular. And all of it was being in front of people and having those in-person relationships and hanging out with people and sitting in front of them and laughing and being, comfortable with yourself and all that sort of thing. And so again, there's certain timelines, and COVID's one of them. So we all get knocked back. We're all kind of sent, back to our homes. And it was like, this is great, and Zoom is great. And, and then you realize, like, I'll just speak for me, that it's like all decked out, shirt, suit, coat, sweats, shorts. And it's like, so I was ready for business from here up. And it was like, because I didn't, and so it's that weird sort of like isolation, and then it's like, okay, now I got to go meet this group of people. You brought up greatness, right? So it was September this past year, so literally all of a couple of months ago, and we're in Columbus, Ohio. So this still happens to me. So I knew several people, and I couldn't wait to see them, but I traveled alone. And I remember I get that same sense of nerves that I've gotten for a lot of things. Okay, you're going to walk outside like this. The first night was like you're on this lawn and there's hundreds of people and all that stuff. And I get that same weird sense of me at the high school dance. Like nobody's going to dance with me and everybody's going to think I'm weird and all that stuff. And I would rather just, lean against one of the food trucks than, and I believe that's the technology part too. So I think I make a very conscious effort right now to do something that used to be second nature for me, which is I have to be like, all right, what event am I going to show up for this week? What appointment am I going to literally get out of the house and see somebody? Local event, if it, you know what I mean, a marketing event or something like that. Whereas before I'd be like, oh yeah, Monday I'm going here, Tuesday I'm there, and Wednesday. Now I have to be really intentional. And that's the thing about, I don't want to point the finger at the technology. It's not the technology's fault, that I have more of a case of nerves, but it's more of I can use it as a crutch. So for myself now, it's like again, speaking for me, just to make certain that you use the technology as the leverage. I use the opportunity to be able to do stuff faster and better, that I'm not bogged down doing minutia things, and then I can be doing the things that matter, like talking to people, which is 90% of what I get to do. That's the gift.
That's all great. Like with that, with isolated, and what I'm hearing you say, and all of that is intentional, being intentional, finding balance between going out there and connecting or isolating, because it's actually important to do both, especially for us. Like me, I speak for me when I say introvert. Although when at the Summit of Greatness, I was a total extrovert. Like I totally fed off that energy.
When I saw you, awesome. I wouldn't have thought of anything other than extrovert. Wouldn't have thought anything other. Big smile on your face. And it was like, and I could feel the connection instantly. I'll only add one more thing, which is it is as good as you make it. Which is the fact is the advancements are incredible, but I have to be advancing too. Like I can't ride technology like a car. I can't ride technology like a wave, where I was like, oh, the wave wasn't any good, so I didn't do any good. It was such a privilege. I didn't need to ask you a bunch of lunkhead questions like, what is your name again? What do you like to do? Where do you, the tech gave me the ability, the gift, the privilege of knowing you, that you could just be in the relationship. And that's the part that I said, when it's used for me directly, which is it saves all the nonsense time, right? Then I could just go into, hey, we're already in a relationship. So what would you say to somebody that you were in a relationship with, as opposed to a complete stranger that you're trying to establish some kind of chemistry or rapport? And that was the gift. I could just start talking.
It's great. And you mentioned high school dance. I get that same feeling. I think that's what.
Not just me.
What do you think? I guess was that an intentional thing when Lewis thought this up, created like the Summit of Greatness with you wanted to bring back the high school, like being back in high school, because that's what it felt like to me too. And what, to answer your question, how do you react to your best bud or your significant other? Hey, buddy, how you doing? What's up? Like that's what that's all about. Like that, greeting them. What are you excited about today? No, what are you doing? What do you do?
What do you like to do? So what do you like? What's your favorite color? They're accelerators. That's to me the gift of technology. These are accelerators. So for me, somebody who is not a tech genius, but is in a field where you don't have any more, like a lot of professions, the gift of a big support staff. You have you, right? And so it's like, okay, I could spend 30 hours a day doing editing on voiceovers, but the problem would then be I wouldn't be doing any voiceover work. because I would just be spending every waking moment clip, sniff, move. And it would be like, all right, John, when do you actually talk? Oh, no time. There's really no time. I have to edit and clip. And that's the gift for me of tech now, being able to edit and, take the time to learn that it's like, okay, I can do stuff in 10 minutes that I used to think I could never do in a lifetime, let alone in 10 minutes. And that's to me the gift of the tech.
Talking about gift of tech, and it just crossed my mind.
Yeah.
How are you, or does it make? How do you get more creative with technology? I mean,
Mhm.
you may have just said it too, and I just want to like go deeper into that a little
Mhm.
more.
That's funny you say that because I thought of something else. In addition, like you said, the creative side. So what I was thinking about was I came from a field where you did your sales presentations and you did your standard PowerPoint slides and your PowerPoint decks and your bullet points. And, I think I'll use a blue background and you'd be like all fussy over that. Or if you were really overprivileged, you would have somebody else do it for you and you'd have no ownership to it. You would just be like, get me a blah, 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 blah. Like you were speaking to a waiter or a waitress, And so I think about that because the last thing I would want anybody to be doing creatively is spending all their time in the creative process, not in the actual delivery of the creative. Like I was watching an interview, I guess it was the other day, and it was Dua Lipa explaining the song process of her latest song, the brand new song. And she was explaining the creative process. And it's fascinating. Like she's talking about things like a CVS notebook, which I think is funny. And I don't quite know if I believe that she's wandering around in a CVS without 30,000 people chasing her down the block. But the process is really cool. How to make it unique and yours and ultimately all these pieces. But I'll give you an example. So the premium version of Canva, the premium version where you can use all the pictures and all that is $15 a month. Now, same as I was talking about before, I don't dismiss finances. It's not like I'm walking around as flush as I was when I was, living the life. I'm not. So I don't know. It's only 15 a month. But what you get for $15 a month is not just complete access to everything, but like this magic wand. They literally call it, I think it's like the magic wand technology. You just hit the button and it's like, well, what do you want it to be? Well, I want it to be an Instagram, square Instagram, blah, blah, and then all you're doing is changing details. So it could be as creative, and I use it all the time. And what I don't have to do, creating podcast covers, creating cover art for the video podcast, for any sort of clips, any sort of branding, any of that stuff. I do not have to be like the people that drove me insane in my former career that were spending hours playing house with a PowerPoint slide. And I'll be like, for the love of God, you can't tell me you've just spent 3 hours rearranging bullet points. You can't tell me you just did that. You just wasted 3 hours. You're doing this in seconds. And I'm not an artist. You know what I mean? But it's like unique personal mine that I can feel really good about. The skin in the game part is $15. You literally type in the search bar, I want this. You get that. Touch a couple buttons, off you go. Boom, all done. I want to look different. I'm a complete fuss as it relates to my logo. I won't bore you to death with all of that. But as I said, my logo mattered to me and I want that exact red and I want, all that sort of thing. But what I don't want is to spend hours ruminating over it. I can hide behind that stuff and then literally want to beat myself up at the end of the day because I did nothing but play around with bullet points or this font or this red or that red. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I'm a big believer in creativity, efficiency, which ultimately optimizes your productivity. You know, that it's I want things to look professional. I want things buttoned up. I want things to sound professional. I really work hard to make certain that my recordings sound a certain way. They have to. Like in my field, you're not really going into studios anymore. Like they don't want to open them. They don't want a bunch of goofs wandering in, wandering out, and, you know what I mean, and getting all their equipment dirty and coughing all over their microphones. So
And
you
do
know,
you really need to?
no. So they're like they love this. So it's like you can do it in your house, but we still need it to sound studio grade, right? So with all of that, buying all the fancy equipment before I have no regrets about that because that's what they want, you know. So, but it's like you don't have to spend weeks and months editing and processing. That's the gift of the tech. So for me, it's the ability to utilize the creative part, like whether it's something as basic as iMovie, whether it's something as basic. Yeah, right. I know, Adobe makes everything.
Final Cut guy here.
Well, there you go. And I find and God bless you, because that freaks me out. So I don't have the patience yet to be in that platform. So I need to find the platforms that aren't quite as good, but like I said, don't look like kindergarten, and that won't literally throw my head into like a sideways like slant. So it's like that's the part where I'm grateful. It's, I guess I could call it middle ground. Probably for you tech snobs, that's so base part of it. But for me, it's a major step above basic, and that's where I look at in terms of the creative process. From the
yeah, when I open up like iMovie on my Mac, I think
right.
it's like $20 now or something like that. I use GarageBand to create, like using loops to create my music and everything. Using AI. I want to get to touch on AI too.
Sure.
I use AI to create this new, it's probably one of the best introductions I had on my show now, using AI. It's not my voice anymore. It's someone else introducing me. But I've heard it, and I wanted to try it out, and like that's pretty good. Although I do like the sound of my voice lately these days.
You should.
I don't like how I look on camera on the screen, but I like certain words. I'll say like podcasters, and my New York accent comes out.
I got you. And see, it's funny. I don't really hear that, but I'm from Philadelphia, PA, so I hear some. You know what I mean? And so I get something, like I said, we're Northeast. Like I said, that's a Northeast accent, and people will hear that in me, where I feel like it wasn't like I've done a lot of conscious work that I must get rid of my. It was never like that, but I didn't want to sound like the guy like hoagies and like it was like So I do work to not sound like the guy standing on the corner at the L. You know what I mean? Because for myself, it's like you want to get hired across the country. You don't want to sound like the guy that's at the corner of 4th and Shunk in Philadelphia, But the AI part freaks me out because I do narration for high-end real estate. One of the things that I get a great deal of satisfaction. I just like it. I like telling the story. I like literally sharing the story. I like literally the big fancy visuals from the homes. I feel like the only thing they didn't have was just a couple of words to welcome somebody home. And I didn't want them to sound like I have to watch myself. I talk a lot, and I didn't want to sound like the person just like talks your ear off. It's like, no home needs that. But I thought they just sounded cold with generic music and the pictures and stuff. And so I get a great deal of joy from it. I bring that up. Not that, I know that sounds really self-serving, but what I was going to add was, now you got more AI in this. And it's like, and you know they're not as good. And I'm a total snob when it comes to that. I'm like, it's like, but companies are using it. And ultimately, they're the judge. That it's like if the company is willing to put the skin in the game to use the AI voice, well, then it's good enough. So, in that regard, with AI, it's I use it. I use it for I do video clips for my podcasts, and I use an AI service that I just type in some keywords and boom, and then magically I get a bunch of clips. This guy Tommy Kenyon, who has been on my podcast, and I'm very grateful for that. When that episode is published, I will do that with you, and you'll see, and it's great. So again, I could go and be in the editing room and keep rewatching our episode and need to clip it that exact second, and was it here that, or I could just hit the button, get about 10 clips. Of the 10, 6 to 7 are going to be usable. That whole process. I think the annual membership is $20 a month, but they got a free service too. Like they have it's a good free trial. Like it's a really good one. So you'll know if you like it. For anybody, Opus Pro, I think is what it is. And so it's wonderful. The old man in me, I'm sorry, the advancing years, or what was I again?
Significant.
Thank you. That significant age.
Significant age years.
Scares the pants off of me in regards to identity theft and compromise and all that sort of thing. Absolutely terrifies me of what I would never do before and now do it gleefully. It's like, signing over this and then sure, and and here's your this and it's like I find it wildly alarming that it's not just the advancements in the improvement, it's in the advancements that I'm deathly afraid that it's like, how soon is it going to be before it's like overtaking in terms of grabbing information? Hell, the actors strike that just got resolved, they're still going through some loopholes in the brand new contract where AI was a huge part of that. But they're realizing too, they didn't get everything with the with the strike and all that stuff. There are still a couple of loopholes where AI is going to still feature in or factor in. And like I said, they didn't get every bullet point out. And so it's wiping out job opportunities, wiping out identities, all that sort of thing. It's moving really, really fast. And I make a decision, I don't know, every day. Do I want to go with the technology or do I want to hide under a blanket? And every day, almost, it's like I think, and every day I've made the same decision. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to use it. I'm going to roll with it. But every day in my head, it's like, oh, have I let go too much? Too much info, too much freedom, too much creativity, too much individuality. And that's the sort of stuff that every day I think, should I put the brakes on or should I keep rolling with it? And right now, I'm just rolling with it.
I feel like we can go on and on and talk about a lot of the stuff, and like a lot of the questions we've mentioned in so ways I didn't even have to ask them, and they just came up. We talked about ethical, but like one thing people kept saying, and the person another some of the greatness attendee I reached out to a bunch, and I'm talking with another one in a few days as well.
Nice.
I talked with he says James Allen Thompson, who I just had on the guest, and he'll be actually the next release that I'll edit on this. He said, and I agree with this. It's use AI it's a great assistant right now.
Mm-hmm.
The one when to the point to really, and I just want to like take this home and land the plane on the AI thing with this point. When we start seeing AI and these robots, whatever you want to call them, develop what's the word? Like pretty much develop like a heart or develop
oh my god, a soul.
a soul. when we start seeing that, that's when I'm gonna really start. But like, I'm gonna really start being afraid or alarmed. But until
Brother,
then,
it's
it's
too
a
late at
great
that point.
assistance. Yeah.
If it's like I'm going to wait till they have a soul and then I'm going to start getting afraid, it's like that ship sailed.
But as long as
Maybe
someone
like the
needs
old
to,
Kong movie.
as long as someone they need to be programmed, or you need to put in a prompt to say, hey, can you get me this out, and assistant, it's a great little editing tool, great,
Mm-hmm.
great used
Absolutely.
for great for editing
Yep.
and give you structure. It helps me structure emails like
Mm-hmm.
good and everything. So it's been great for me in that part. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm worried a little bit, but I will be a lot more when I start seeing when it develops. It doesn't need the humans anymore.
Well, when we're starting to date them, you know what I mean? That'll
Yeah.
be that could be a challenge.
So where I know where I can, but where can people contact you? Where you like
um,
to hang out the most,
mhm,
on in person, online,
mhm.
wherever, where you
Well,
like to hang out.
love that. So the in-person one's the most fun thing to say. So I'm a Philly East Coast guy, but where if I'm lucky and things are going really well, I'm typically with someone or someone's on a beach somewhere. So if like I said, Portugal is my go-to place. I don't get there often enough, but in my blueprint, where would I hang at least a portion of the year every year in Portugal? That is the vision where it's like make the it is it's the fluid mobile life is what I want. I want the anchor to remain in Philadelphia, PA with my family. I want the anchor to remain there. That they matter to me, and I wouldn't want to go anywhere necessarily just me. You know what I mean? Like I said again, it's like, but Portugal's a part of the mobile fluid life too. And in terms of virtual, my platforms of choice, I got a podcast that I'm grateful for. I'm about at 100 episodes now, and so it's done. It's my YouTube channel, and I'll get you these links rather than me rattle off HTTP. Nothing makes you sound older than to say that. But my YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, I probably am followed the most, but for myself, LinkedIn is great. And then sure, Facebook as well, too.
Privilege and honor to have you on and to have talked to you not once but twice in the same week on two different shows, our own shows. So it's been a privilege for both
What the
sides.
pleasure's all mine. And right, that it's like talk about a great gift that we both get to do something that we love, that we feel great about. Like you said, heck, that it's like, so what are the difficult parts of a podcast? Well, nothing. You know what I mean? I hope you never change that answer, man. I hope you never ever ever change that answer. It's great. Love the questions. I love the prep, and I love the ease that you put me in as well too. So thank you for having me aboard.
So I'm not completely done yet. I know we're going a
Oh,
little over,
that's okay,
but
buddy.
I have three final questions. I model
Yeah.
this after the School of Greatness because I say this every time I talk with someone that Lewis Howes was my podcast inspiration. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to like? You should start a podcast. That was Lewis Howes telling me that back in
Oh,
2016, 2017. So inspiration came from Lewis Howes to start this podcast. And I modeled that, especially this next one coming up.
mm-hmm.
Or is it this? Is it this one? So, maybe the second one. I already. So it's this next question.
Yeah.
Three truths.
Mm.
And there's actually in two different states of it. The first one, three final questions. When it comes to our constant companions, our phones that we have in our pocket, what are Smart devices, anything computers. What are the three undeniable truths you observed about their impact on our lives?
All right, start with the phone, right? Okay.
Phone, whatever comes to mind.
Three undeniable truths, which is literally you're never away from anybody. You're for the good, for the bad. That there is never an opportunity where you can fully escape, of which to me, I think that's a good thing. Honestly, it sounds weird. I do. I like the fact that, like, for safety purposes, for a lot of things, that you can remain connected, right? The undeniable truth that you were never 100% disconnected. Undeniable truth number two, for the bad, you are never, ever 100% disconnected. Because when you need that mental break, when you want that chance, we'll just put the phone away or just blah, blah, blah. You realize how addictive it is.
And that's if I add that, like, glad you said that too. You have the choice to put it away in a given day or something for the day. So
which I still feel like harder, easier said than done. You know, I'm like the weirdo type that it's like Mel Robbins is the one who was like, well, just don't use the alarm on your phone. Go put it in another room, and then I'll literally get up and go get it. So to me, undeniable truth
exercise.
But the other part is
town.
I don't have to angst, and really the undeniable truth in regards to that is I don't have to angst for an extended period of time to do the following, which is number one, learn something. I do not have to wait till I get home, wait till next week, wait till I have more time. If I don't know the answer to the question, I can learn it in a second. So it's incumbent upon me and anyone that I'm aware of to know that you are not just capable of being able to constantly learn, but it's your obligation. To say something is like mind-numbing as I don't know, and then just stay with that. You know what I mean? It's like it requires some effort, but not all that much. So undeniable truth is that I have every answer to every question anywhere at any time in a second. So use it. Use it for good. Use it to improve. Use it to help somebody. Use it to not be tied into limited thinking. And that's, to me, that's the gift of having. The drag is, like I said, it's that I'm tethered to it and that I'm so busy scrolling likes on Facebook and wasting time and getting buried in minutia that I'm not doing what I'm called to do, what I need to do. But the beautiful part is I don't have to stay stuck in ignorance about anything, ever. I just go find a better answer, and I'm a step further ahead than I was, and I can, and that's like you want to keep learning, and I get to be able to do that. I hope
was that the second one?
I'm laughing with you. I forget. I don't remember if it was the first or the second.
So is there one more? Do you have another one?
Oh, okay. In terms of undeniable truth with the phone and technology?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't have to worry so much. Worrying to me is not, and that ties into the like being able to learn and know. I can worry a little bit less, right? That it takes nothing. Years ago, a decade ago, a friend of mine said, when we were commiserating, both in broadcast ad sales, and I'm like, oh my God, and they're going to keep bothering me, and I don't even want to bring like the phone with them. And she's like, oh, I love it because I can solve a problem in a couple of minutes. And if, say, for instance, I'm doing something fun, I don't have to have the fun experience wrecked because I can't solve a problem. I can't handle a situation. You can solve and handle anything with this. Anything. So the good part is if you have any sort of a proactive mindset, an intentional mindset, and something comes up, say a professional thing, say somebody like for you, whether it's a podcast guest cancels or whether it is, the sports programming gets like sideways or whatever the case may be, you can get on the phone, you can email, you can text somebody, you can get somebody to help you to get the problem moving, not just sit and stew and literally go out of your mind. So I think it saves you a lot of mental angst in terms of just being able to move things along. Learn something, like I said, learn something, not worry so much, be able to solve problems.
And then the second part to this question are the 3 lessons. Crucial lessons we should all learn in handling these powerful tools responsibly and mindfully.
Okay. Well, the first thought that I had was in terms of powerfully. Give me the 3 adjectives again. Powerfully,
responsibly, and mindfully.
Gotcha. So I'll tie this into the ability to not drop a ball. Okay. So responsibly, if somebody needs you, if somebody has something wrong in their life, a circumstance, professional, personal, I think it's your obligation to not feel so entitled or so much with your boundaries that I'm just not going to pick up that phone. I really think, as I said, I can give myself much more mental peace if I'm proactive and intentional with it. Somebody needs me, pick up the damn phone. Take the call. Well, it's a perfect beach day. All right. It's like, just take the call. Take the call. And go back to your perfect day after your call's over. You know what I mean? And it's like they're all perfect.
Any day.
Every day is a perfect beach day. But take the call because it's you don't know how much you could help somebody. If you're coming from contribution, coming from service, coming from, like when you're an entrepreneur, so much of this has to do with making someone else's life better. Profit, of course. Generating revenue, of course. You know what I mean? Creating the brand, of course. But so much of it has to do with helping somebody. And that's why it's like, use it responsibly. Well, I don't take phone calls between 4 and it's like, take the damn call. It doesn't mean break up your project because, somebody wants to sit and, commiserate, but it doesn't mean that. But like, you know the difference when somebody needs you. Be responsible, take the call. Back to the responsible part, that it's like pretending to be working as opposed to actually working is something to me that I fight over. Scrolling through social media, seeing how my posts are doing allegedly, I'm going to put up social content now on my phone, and then an hour later it still hasn't gone up, but I'm still playing around with blah, blah, blah. It's like, you've got to be intentional. You have to be intentional with the tech. I'm not a big believer in you need to handle every situation immediately. Strategic, intentional, and efficient.
Time and place.
Yeah. Because when you are efficient, when you know the time and place, you can use the tech in a way that you can take care of it in minutes. But if everything's a fire drill, and if everything's a catastrophe, and if everything is when I say take the phone call, I don't mean, again, I'll repeat, don't stop each and every project you're on because each and every single person now needs to dump their problem on you. I don't mean that. I'm simply saying there are legit problems, and so often you know what they are. And if you can help somebody make their day a little bit easier, chances are damn good you're going to make your day easier as well, too. Be very proactive and intentional with tech so that you're not killing hours editing a video. Hey, for me, to 9, I post this, I do this, and check, 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 done.
I need to make sure I'm intentional with editing video because I can get lost in the editing process.
A lot of people do it, man, right? Whether it's being overly fussy or just getting lost, it's that sort of thing. And then, as I said,
The artwork.
well, that's what we were talking about before. You could literally sit and spend the rest of your life playing in Canva. You really could if you chose, but that's where the it's not just the strategy, it's the intention.
Intention.
And then I guess one more in terms of responsibly, the old cliche, done is better than perfect.
Love that.
All this tech is available to make stuff happen so fast. I'm still acting so fussy about you know what I mean? Like I'm creating a like Madonna's concert stage. It's like then well that's your problem. And so to me, responsible is handling things to the best of your ability and allowing the tech to enable you to do what you should be doing. What is your gift? What is your calling? What is it you should be doing? You used the term before, assistant. AI makes a good assistant. And that to me is using it responsibly. Irresponsible. Write my term paper. Oh, write my book. Here you go. And then you go back to that old school term plagiarized. That it's like, what part of it, what's in it for, what's your role in it? So to me, when it's acting as support and assistant and enabling you to do what you're called upon to do, what people should be paying you to do, what people, where you're cheating someone if they are not getting your gift, it's often not in the way that I'm editing my video.
Were you cheating someone where they're not getting your gift? I love that.
Yeah, you're depriving someone, you know what I mean? You're denying someone the privilege of receiving the gift that you bring. Well, I don't have time for that because I'm
Beautiful.
too busy, writing the quotes for the week. You know what I mean? It's like that's when you're using it irresponsibly.
Your gift, when it comes to the thing when artists would sit there hours and hours and hours. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? I don't know. Is your message being portrayed? Are you putting it in front of someone and how are they receiving the message? Is it as you intended, or is it a little differently?
I love what you said. That's my whole spiel, is getting people's intended message received. Is that what you
message received, John Duffin?
Right? Is that what you really wanted to say? Are you sure?
Duffin Media.
Right? And that's if the answer is yeah, well then you've done your job and let the tech get you there faster.
All right. Any last words, anything before I go with the final question?
Oh, other than to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I like the fact that anybody who is nice enough, kind enough to allow me to express myself, right, wrong, flaws, the whole 9 yards. It's to me that's a privilege. I beat myself up a lot, still less than I used to, and so anybody that allows me just to speak, thank you.
All right, love it. Great to have you on, and we do this again. We can talk so much about other stuff. We can dive deep into other stuff as well. But I want to know, ask everyone this now: what is your definition of innovation?
I've heard you ask this before. Yeah, so innovation to me makes someone else's life better. If it makes yours better too, then great. Good, wonderful. But you're making someone else's life better, easier, more happy, taking burdens off of someone, allowing them to be able to shine too. That's innovation. And if you have a role in any way, whether it's the technology or the inventor or the one that implements or utilizes, or coaches or teaches the tech, and you can help someone's life be better, make someone happy, allow them to get to reach their fullest potential. Well, then you've done something deeply innovative. And it doesn't have to be curing cancer, although that would be great. It would be. But like I said, if you can make someone's life easier, more productive, happier, less strained, in a day and age where and I'll speak for me too, you get worried about so many things so much more quickly, even with all of the beautiful gifts that are around and the people, then I believe that's really innovative.
Love it.
And I hope that we get to keep making things more innovative for people, each day, every day. Make somebody a little bit happier.
Great. We're fun. Look forward to doing this again. And
I'd love to.
And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, man. Absolutely a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. It's always a blast exploring the tech universe with you. But alas, it's time to wrap things up. If you've got burning tech questions or just want to say hello, remember you can reach out to us on our website, social media, or drop us an email. We love hearing from you. And if you found this episode as electrifying as we did, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us keep the tech goodness flowing. Don't forget to share Tech Time with Sweet Tea with your fellow techies. The more, the merrier, right? As we sign off today, always remember that tech is a tool and it's here to serve you. So use it wisely, explore fearlessly, and keep it real in your tech adventures. Stay curious, stay connected, and keep rocking the digital world. Catch you on the next episode of Tech Time with Sweet Tea.